Hello viewers, here is a showing of the telephones in service as of February 2023. Hopefully this will be the last kind of dull setup. Should be able to get more telephone line runs put in within the next couple of weeks. Anyways, we'll start off here in the kitchen. Here we have the Vtech 5881 telephone, a handset, and the base with the answering machine. And this setup is done intentionally to mimic the original setup that these were in at the first house many years ago. The kitchen was very similar. The only difference was the sink was over there. There was a third cabinet, counter under the window, and the sink was over there. But otherwise, it was the same with the refrigerator here and the counter here, and this was the corner where the telephones sat. And those were originally bought in like early to mid 2000s, and those were pretty much the phones I grew up with. So this is a very nostalgic setup. I've been wanting to do this since I bought the house, and now it is finally in place. So there's that. On the other side of the kitchen, by the table, we still have the Uniden 1580 telephone. In the living room, we have another 1580 handset, which usually sits over here by the couch, and then the cradle is over here. But I don't usually keep it here. I actually put it underneath the table because I don't know if you can tell in the video, but the surface of the table here is actually faded. That table is much darker than this one. That's faded from the sun since it's been here. So I have to get some kind of shades or something to put up here when the sun starts to come in for a couple hours and shines directly on here, because it's going to damage any piece of equipment that I put here. So that's there for now. Eventually I'll have a corded phone here as well, but haven't set that up just yet. Over here we have the 5881's color display handset. I don't remember what the model number is, but it sits over there by that lamp. And then we have the Vtech 6763 telephone, the base in here. This is probably the most used system. I talk on these all the time. It's a nice nostalgic set, and it works. It works great. The reception is great. The speakerphone is phenomenal. This probably has the single best handset speakerphone I've ever used. And then we also have a classic 2500 set. This one is a Cortelco 2500 set. In the kitchen we also have this 2554 telephone, also by Cortelco, hanging there on the wall. In the media room there is one of the handsets to the Vtech 6763. And that's all that's in here as far as the phones go. There's this, but it's not hooked up yet. I'm gonna run more phone lines. In the bathroom, there is still the Uniden DWX207 waterproof telephone. I'm thinking of putting a corded phone in here too, maybe on this wall. I think would make the most sense. In the bedroom, we have the Vtech 5881 handset, which is also in the same configuration as it was at the first house. There was two handsets on that system. One was in the kitchen and the other was in the main bedroom down the hall. So we have that, and we have the Uniden EXAI-7980, which is probably the second most used phone. I talk on this one quite a bit. And of course, another Uniden DCX-150. In the computer room, there is the third Vtech 6763 handset and an NEC corded telephone. There's also this Uniden DWX-207, which is kind of floated around the house. This will go back in the garage soon. I just need to finish the counter and cleaning up from the bats or whatever. This is actually the original handset that I got back in like 2010 or whatever it was. This has taken a lot of abuse over the years and it's still going just fine. Really good, tough phone. And unrelated to the video, I got this anomaly a couple days ago. This is the Persodian 43269, and this is a really odd model. I didn't even know this thing existed. It looks like a cross between the Uniden 1580 and the 2080. Very, very odd. A couple days ago it just came into my mind out of nowhere that I ought to get out that AT&T SYNJ system that I had, because this will be a good use case for it until I get the phone lines run, because this would allow me to have corded phones in areas where there is no phone jack. And I started looking for it down here and I said, oh, I have no idea where it is. And then I was at the other location for a different reason, and whenever I go over there I always just grab a couple things. And I was in the bedroom and I saw the boxes for these under the bed, and I didn't remember, but apparently I had taken the time to put all the handsets back into the packages, and so there they were, ready to go and be transported and everything. So that was a nice surprise. So now that's over here, and I think that is all of the phones moved. So downstairs here we have this is a kind of an unusual 2500 set. It is by it's an AT&T 2500. It's a 2500 mmGb from the 1980s, and it's got a electronic ringer, and it is an awesome sounding ringer. Classic, iconic ringer from back in the day. And I just put it up there because I needed something with a loud ringer, because I wasn't hearing the phone ring down here. And that's the other phone I have down here, the DCX-150. Here in the garage we have the Cortelco 2554 telephone and the loud ringer by Wheelock. And that ringer is fantastic in here. I'm glad I finally have like a real use case for that thing, because it's a really neat piece and it works great. I was missing a lot of calls in here because the 2554 by itself just wasn't loud enough to hear over music or equipment, but this thing, you can hear that over anything, any tool, even with ear protection on, you can still hear that loud and clear. Interestingly enough though, it's not really audible upstairs or outside. So whatever the frequency it rings at really doesn't pass through things that well, but here in the room it is totally audible, which is fantastic. So that's all the phones I have for now. We'll be installing more phones in pretty much every room eventually, hopefully soon.